Right, welcome to CDC Game Show, where we, of course, preview the game ahead and have a little bit of fun and games in this match preview. And we have, for the first time on cricket.com history, not one expert, but two. So it's double the fun, double the experts, and we're going to be previewing the Kolkata vs Lucknow clash. Don't go anywhere, because we have got an NV and a WE in the house. Yes, boys and girls, my name's Avnish Hegde, and I said NV because we've got, of course, Nicholas Verity Knight and WB Raman as ever. First and foremost, this gives me commentary box vibes, gentlemen. Nick, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, all good. In fact, you know what? This is one of the best days of the year so far. Sun is shining here in the UK. It's actually quite warm. It's not as warm as it is in India, but beautiful conditions. So, yeah, all fine.
Super. And WV, same thoughts here, back home?
Yeah, I am fine. It's nice and hot in Chennai as usual. And I can see from Nick's face that he's picked up a bit of tan already. Just the first night he encounters, he's picked up a tan already. Enjoy it, Nick. Carry on.
Super, guys.
I've been cutting my grass, WV. I've been cutting my grass all day. That's why I've been out in the sun.
Okay.
Right, so let's, of course, begin this CDC game show with the first round, and that's called How's That? Because the question to you, sir, is Rahul or Shreyas Iyer? Who's a better tactician?
See, it's a different challenge for both of them. If you take their individual stature as of now, you would see that Rahul is one who's done well for India in international cricket in all the formats. His place is secure. He'll be an automatic choice in all the three formats for the country. He's a lot more experienced, which means that he's rid of a lot of cobwebs. And as a result, he's performed well as a batter, and also as a captain, he can always be doing the right things because his head is not cluttered. He's not thinking of doing well enough to try and sneak into the Indian side and then maybe do well there to establish himself. He doesn't have all these worries, but Shreyas Iyer obviously is one who's really not established himself. He's also had to contend with a lot of things that have been going on in his side, which means that results apart, there are other things that he had to obviously manage off the field as well. Yes, these are things that we don't really discuss in detail. Suffice to say that he's had his plate full, which means that he might have missed on a trick or two. But it's unfair to compare two captains because a captain is as good as his team, and also the things have to start falling in place at least by the halfway mark for the captain to do the right things and also enjoy his tenure as captain. But unfortunately, it's been a bit of up and down for the Knight Riders this season, whereas Rahul has had great success as a captain, and that too being the first time franchisee. They've had a great run up till now, and they'll hope to carry on ahead as well.
Okay, before we move on to Nick, WE, quick one then. Better tactician, Rahul or Shreyas Iyer? I know you've got pertinent points, but if you had to choose one, gun to your head, who would that be?
Obviously, given all the factors that I was talking about, Rahul has been better.
Okay, super. Good start to your How's That round. Let's ask Nick, of course, right now in terms of his How's That question. And I want to ask you about where Marcus Stoinis should bat for Lucknow Super Giants. Nick, take it away.
Answer your question. Okay, I think it's pretty simple for me. I'm not a massive fan of you have to have a batting position in T20 cricket because I think the game situation often determines where you should come in. And when you're someone like Marcus Stoinis, who obviously offers something a little bit different to the team, I think you look at game situations. So I don't necessarily say he should bat number 5 or 6 or 7. It might in fact be that he bats number 3. And my point being, if your openers get through the first 10 overs, then he becomes your number 3. If your openers don't, then he perhaps becomes your number 6 and 7. So in short, once 10 overs ticks over, get your pads on, Marcus Stoinis, and get out there.
Okay, so it's adaptability according to Nick. Let's wait and watch how that all unravels for the LSG. We'll, of course, now ask you another question in this round before we wrap up, and that's for both of you all, and putting both of you guys in the spot here. So we'll start with Nick in this one. KKR's MVP, who is it? Is it Andre Russell or Sunil Narayan? Who do you think adds more to the team?
You know, I sort of agonize over that question because you start thinking of all the pluses and very little minuses of both. So Okay, short answer. I'm going to go Andre Russell. And I'm going to go Andre Russell because I'm thinking of the all-round nature that he provides. I know Sunil Narine sometimes is useful at the top of the order and adds late order runs, etc. But I'm thinking also, when I make these decisions, I think of the opposition. And you think of someone like Andre Russell and how he can change a game. You're also thinking about his all-round fielding as well. So you're looking like a sort of three-phase cricketer, all facets covered. Whereas Sunil Narine is fantastic and he's a go-to bowler at any point, really, in the power play in the middle, get me a wicket. And he's got fantastic control, having changed his action. He's a wonderful, wonderful bowler. And if you weren't comparing him to someone like Andre Russell, he's the MVP. But in this instance, I'm just going to go with the all-round nature of a player that can just change a game like that.
Okay, let's see if WB agrees with that thought. Andre Russell or Sunil Narine, KKR's MVP, sir?
Nick has had a huge advantage here. He's had to go first, and he's got that advantage there. Now, again, do I have a choice like you used to have in school exams? You can let go of one. This would be the question and let go. But anyway, getting to the point, I think I would go with Andre Russell too, because there are occasions where batters can perhaps avoid Sunil Narine, but you cannot avoid Andre Russell as a bowler. Because he's there, he's going to pound you no matter what the situation is. And now with him bowling regularly and picking up wickets, that's additional value he provides. And if you're talking about fielding, and if you compare both Sunil Narine and Andre Russell as fielders, and you know what the answer is. So which means that I have to agree with Nick on the fact that he provides you all the facets in a game of cricket that you're really looking for in one cricketer. Which means that, you would go with Andre Russell.
Okay, Andre Russell it is from both of these men, so I wouldn't really beg to differ with them as well. Let's move on to round number 2, and we're calling this one Just a Minute. Yes, it's one of those old college games we used to play, of course, where we put out a topic and the expert will have to speak for it exactly 1 minute, being flawless in their point of view. Now we'll start with WE in this occasion, and your topic, sir, is Gautam Gambhir is Lucknow's team mentor.
Gautam Gambhir, I had interactions with him a long time ago, and since then a lot of things have happened in his life, personally as well as professionally. He's quit cricket and obviously he's got into politics. Perhaps that would have made him a lot more patient and a lot more smoother in his conversations and in his communication, and he seems to have mellowed down a lot, and basically he's a nice guy. It's just that his intensity gets the better of him. As talking of his cricketing acumen, I always rated him as one of the better captains in the IPL. I would probably put him on the same pedestal as the MSD in terms of captaincy in the IPL. We did not get to see much of Gautam in other avatars as captain in other teams. So we cannot obviously make an assessment of him as a captain. Now that he's become the mentor of the side, you can obviously see the influence that he's had on KL Rahul and the way things are happening. I think 1 minute was too much, actually. It could have been even 10 seconds. I would have said the same thing. It's no brainer, obviously.
It's all right. We'll let you off the hook because, of course, it's the first time we're playing this game. But look, more the merrier from you. Let's ask Nick his particular topic right now. And Nick, yours is about the rise and rise of Mohsin Khan.
Yeah, he's been terrific, hasn't he? I mean... What I think there have been so many things I like about what he's done and how he's bowled, but I'm trying to sort of be specific to what I think has perhaps been the most important. And I look at accuracy. I don't look at much more else than that. I look at the ability to not try and change too much when it's going well. I think sometimes with bowlers in this format, I've got all these variations that I've learned. I've got all these variations that the coach has talked to me about. I've got all these variations that I practice day in, day out in the nets with the bowling coach. I should perhaps use them. But there are some times when you don't need to use them. The game is going very much in your favor. Your bowling is working by bowling back of a length, on a good length, outside off stump, on off stump. So why change? And sometimes I see bowlers, when I work on the games, I watch the games, I watch bowlers all over a batter, and then suddenly they try something and the pressure is released. Now, it's a fine line, isn't it? It's fine, very fine line, because you can't become predictable, and sometimes batsmen can line you up. But what I like about Mohsin is he seems to find a way of bowling the ball that the batter doesn't want to bowl at that given time, and I think that's a great skill. I think that's not only the technical ability, but I also think it's a mind thing as well. You're watching the batter, you're thinking about what he's thinking, you're watching how he's looking at the field, and I think all those things have combined. I mean, it's a little expensive in the last game, but again, you accept that because that's the nature of the format, that unfortunately you're not going to be at your best or have your best figures every day. But I like the way he just keeps it ever so simple and bowls what he does well. He's very, very accurate.
Absolutely. His accuracy is definitely taking him miles ahead in this game. Right, we've asked you guys both about Lucknow related questions. It's only fair to just finish this round with a KKR related question. And it's an inevitable one, many would say. The question is, Venkatesh Iyer, is he suffering from a second season syndrome? We'll start with Nick on this and then we'll proceed with WE.
I think the obvious answer to that is yes. I don't. What you're referring to when we talk about the second season syndrome is that you announce yourself on the scene, you do really well, your strengths are perhaps not necessarily logged by opposition bowlers and captains, and therefore you have a free run, if you like, in your first year, and it's not until people catch up with you a little bit in that second year where they perhaps don't bowl to your strength but now bowl to your weakness. I don't know. I think there's a bit of that. I also think, having watched Venkatesh quite a lot in the early part of the IPL, he's just lacking a little bit of fluency, actually, and that plays on your mind as a batter. He likes to say leg side of the ball. He likes to open up the offside, and he's just not quite found the middle of the bat regularly. And sometimes, and WV will have a say on this, I'm sure. Sometimes as a batter, you're thinking about all the other things and you forget to watch the ball out of the hand. And that's something that happens instinctively when you're on top of your game and you're not clouded with, are my feet going there? Why aren't I scoring runs? Should I be hitting the ball there? Why is that fielder over there? What's the bowler doing? All that sort of stuff clouds the thinking of, I've got to watch the ball. And when you watch the ball out of the hand and you see it all the way down, it's amazing how your game formulates itself a little bit and your rhythm sometimes comes back and your fluency comes back a little bit. I just feel that is perhaps as important as the second season syndrome, which everyone's talking about with him.
Let's see if WV agrees with those thoughts or disagrees, because he's held Venkatesh Iyer in high regard so far, but the man hasn't showed up in terms of this tournament. WV, quickly come to you then. Agree with Nick or disagree?
I think what has happened with him is that he was enjoying his cricket. He had a great IPL, and suddenly he gets onto a wave, which had nothing to do with him. It was just that he was swept off and he was picked in the Indian side, and then he was relegated to the middle order, and then they felt he could bowl usefully as well. And suddenly that bit is over. He comes back to the IPL, and suddenly he sees the franchisee for whom he's done extraordinarily well at the top of the order. They also resort to sending him in the middle order, which meant that there was a lot of confusion induced in his mind. And add that with the second season syndrome, which means that, like Nick explained, the others would have, sort of studied him. They would have known what to do with him when he comes out to bat, where to bowl at him, where not to bowl at him. So it was a case of a lot of confusion created by so many factors outside his control. And I think that is perhaps really, sort of not allowed him to perform or allowed him to be calm in the first place. It's only when a cricketer is calm and he's in a good space mentally, he can perform at his best. And unfortunately, that was not to be, even though he showed glimpses of what he could do when he opened at the top. At the top, he is really good, and that is where he needs to bat. But unfortunately, he did not get a consistent run of chances at the top of the order. But anyway, this is all part of a learning curve. And this is one season out of which he'll benefit a lot.
Okay, it's getting all too nice here on cricket.com game show with both these gentlemen agreeing with each other. But let's see if the final word, which is the final round, has something exciting for us. Right then, you guys have to, of course, agree or disagree with these particular questions that I'm going to be throwing up right now. The first of which, should teams going forward in this tournament just win the toss and bat first? A trend which is completely opposite to the start of the tournament. We'll start with WE on this one.
Yes, the pitches are seemingly tired. Obviously, they look tired. There's a fair bit of help for the spinners in it. and also the fact that it's getting into the real business end of the tournament, wherein you need to seize the advantage, you need to seize the initiative. So I think sides would tend to bat first and put totals on the board, because the pressure element is going to be on the increase as you get into the knockout phase, and even the last few games in the league phase also is going to be a little pressure cooker situation for many teams.
Okay. What about you, Nick? Do you agree with that? The fact that teams should bat first after winning the toss, or do you see it completely differently?
Do you know what? I'm going to agree with that. It's all becoming very agreeable, isn't it, this? Because, I mean, the points that WV made are very right and relevant in terms of pitch and conditions. I think the only thing I'd add to that is there are some times where your team and the makeup of your team and the resources in your team suit the other way round, bowling first. You might feel that you've got someone who finishes games really well at sort of 5, 6, 7. They're comfortable finishing games. It's what they do really well. You might feel that you've got an opening pair that bowl well up front rather than when the runs are on the board. So you've got to look at it in two ways. One, the conditions that are present in front of you on the surface. That'll have a short say. And the other say is, yes, sometimes we'll ignore the conditions because it's only 20 overs. The conditions aren't going to change much at all during that period. So we're going to be playing on the same surface. Would we rather do it first or second? So I think there's that just to put into the pot as well. But generally, absolutely. When you look at the conditions now, it is very different to how it was a month and a half or so ago. And yeah, generally, I think your first thought then was bowl first. I think your first thought now is probably bat first, unless there's a good reason not to.
They say great minds think alike. I can't really dispute you guys right now because it's all very pally, like I said. Let's see if you guys can irk each other with the final question of the final word right now in terms of this round 3 of the match preview. And that is a good one. Which player will KKR regret the most not retaining this season? And there's a plethora of them, gentlemen. I'll put the options out for you. There's Prasidh Krishna, there's of course Lockie Ferguson, there's Rahul Tripathi, there's Kuldeep Yadav. The names go on, but I'll let you guys start, and we'll start with Nick in this occasion.
Gosh, well, I'm going to probably stick with my batting role, and I'm going to go with Shubman Gill. I mean, I think he's a wonderful player. I think when you look at perhaps where KKR are and perhaps how things have gone this year, we've talked about Venkatesh Iyer, we've talked about possible scenarios, changes at the top of the order. I think Shubman Gill is a superstar in the making. I know he's a very, very fine player now. I've said that many times. I just feel that it's a very difficult one. There are so many good players. I'm going to just stick loyal to my opening batting slot and think that he would have done a terrific job for them. In a department where they perhaps could have done with him. So I'm going to say Shubman Gill.
Okay, there was never any doubt. Nick Knight, of course, being part of the batting union, and that's clear there with Gill being picked by him. WV, what about you? One player that it will, of course, hurt KKR the most when they look in hindsight?
Long term as Shubman Gill, but I would go for Rahul Tripathi because he had a terrific strike rate last year. And he's also done well this year. And he's a kind of player that KKR is missing very badly. Now, if you look at it, the void is exit left has forced the management to look at Venkatesh Iyer in the middle order. If he was a part of the setup, I think Venkatesh Iyer would have continued opening, especially when you don't have Shubman Gill to open. So, which meant that Rahul Tripathi, to me, because it's also a short-term absence that is creating the problems for them, I would go for Rahul Tripathi as far as KKR is concerned.
Okay, great. Finally, there was some dispute which we all been waiting for, cricket.com. But look, it's been a kickoff, to say the least, in terms of this CDC game show. And we'll end it there with the predictions, of course. Let's see if there are different opinions in the camp. KKR or LSG? WE, who are you backing this time around?
It has to be LSG because I think they would really be keen to win this game and get into the knockout phase with a win under their belts because they've had a couple of bad games.
Okay, LSG says WV. And Nick, resonating the same thoughts?
No, purely because I'm just going to disagree for the sake of it, actually, because we've agreed far too much throughout this. I'm actually going to go KKR because WV has gone LSG, and I'm going to try and make up an argument to back that up, really, because it's just really a hunch. I think they've won a couple of games. LSG have lost a couple of games. It's sort of nothing really to gain, really, in terms of sort of maybe a side that might play with real freedom up against a side that realises this is a massive game in terms of a win, but also in terms of not losing badly because of the run rate. So there's a heck of a lot on this game for LSG. So I'm going with the side that are just going to go out there, have some fun, enjoy themselves, and make themselves very dangerous as an opposition. There you go. That's something I've given you. I don't know if it will work or not, but there you go.
It certainly works, and I'll tell you what, Nick, if you are, of course, true in this regard, it'll be some send-off for Baz McCullum as coach of KKR and then trickle nicely to that England career of his. Right, thanks so much, gentlemen, for making time felt in this CDC game show. That's all we have. There's plenty more coming on your screens on cricket.com, so subscribe and press that bell icon for all the notifications, including the post-match live show, which will have both these gentlemen. Until then, it's a goodbye from me, Avnish Hegde.